My favorite part of a marathon is watching the reaction of runners who grab my plastic cup of vodka.
Over 80% of the people around don't enjoy their work.
Get a good education, stable job, and raise a family.
I slept on a futon until I was 36. I don't fucking regret any of it.
I just want to have some type of impact, no matter what it was.
Welcome to 99 Career Options podcast. Today we are talking with a friend of mine, Aksel Inge Sinding. Aksel is a clinical psychologist and he has his own private practice for psychotherapy. He also works with innovation and eHealth, developing apps to help people with mental health problems online. Besides his work, he publishes a lot of articles and gives lectures on organizational psychology and mental health. Let's go and talk with him. Remember that all links and resources are in the show notes at 99careeroptions.com/session number. And you can say hi on Twitter and Facebook using the same name.
Cool.
So, Aksel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure talking with you. I remember when I first met you, when I was doing some research for my own product, and it was a very pleasant surprised to see that we share some common interest.
Definitely.
In the mental health care and how you can combine that with technology.
Yeah.
So can you please tell the listeners what do you do and what did you study?
Yeah. I'm a psychologist. I work in a private practice, my own private practice. So I have a lot of patients, primarily adults. I'm working with therapy, but as you mentioned, I'm also quite into technology in mental health. So I'm also a partner in a company making apps and solutions for mental health problems online. I'm basically investigating different ways, new ways to treat mental health problems through technology. Mm-hmm. So that's two things in psychology. I'm also quite a bit into organizational psychology. Yeah.
Okay.
Changing organizations and leading change. Yeah.
Maybe this is a silly question, but what do you do as a psychologist? What does a psychologist do?
Most psychologists, and my primary work is therapy for patients. And therapy is just, it's talking, but in some kind of structured way where you treat mental health problems like anxiety, depression, or existential problems, or traumas. We basically talk to the people and learn them to think in new ways and learn them and explore their minds together with the patient to make them feel better about their life and themselves. Help them with whatever problem they have.
Sounds very interesting. Tell me the story. How did you end up majoring in clinical psychology?
That's an interesting story because I was actually in the army and I wanted to study something, and I was far up in the north of Norway in the bush on tour with my troop, and suddenly I found out together with a couple of my soldiers that we had to sign up for university tomorrow. And I was like, what am I going to study? And I remember that a lot of people had told me, you should study psychology. You're good at talking to people. You're good at understanding people. So try that. And I was like, okay, I'll sign up for a year. And I did. I handed in my application via fax machine, if young people know what a fax machine is still, from the bush up in the north of Norway. And I got accepted, and I started and did. I was only there 2 or 3 months, and then I realized that this is what I want to study. So I kept on going, and I applied to major in it as well, and I got accepted there. So yeah, 7 years has gone by studies since.
So fast. Can you describe the studying period?
Yeah. A lot of people think that psychology or psychologists only know things about abnormal psychology, so psychopathology, mental disorders. This is not right, and this is not true. We know a lot about normal psychology, and that's the basis of your study. So most of your study years are actually about normal psychology, how do people think, what are typical thinking patterns, both in groups and individuals, what are personalities, how do we function in social psychology, how do we develop our minds, stuff like that. And just in a couple of last years, that's when you really delve into more mental health, mental disorders. Yeah. So it's a lot of theory. You have to read a lot about normal psychology first. Then you read about more like mental health, mental disorders. And then you do a lot of practice as well. You have a lot of patients during your studies and get to exercise and try therapy before you're an authorized psychologist.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did the area changed? Like, did it change a lot? I know that some areas in time change a lot, but some areas don't change that much. So actually, I'm quite curious.
It's changing quite a bit. Psychology is one of the youngest professions in terms of science. Like if you compare it to math or philosophy, it's still a baby.
Yeah.
There have been some big trends. Like if you think, still a lot of people think about Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis when they think about psychology. That's not that popular now.
No.
It has had a big change through behaviorism and through to humanistic therapy, and then on to the era where we are now, where we're dominantly using something called cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
So it's changed a lot because now it's much more about thoughts and feelings. Previously, it used to be about past and relationships, and now it's also having a new shift again, where it's going to like cognitive behavioral therapy 2.0, like the new version, where it's more about creating a better way of coping with your thoughts than actually changing your thoughts. So we're into like a new wave of influence from mindfulness and Buddhism, and creating a more relaxed state of mind where you're not like put off by your thoughts all the time.
Okay.
It's a new wave, yeah.
Like in a way, a type of acceptance.
Mm-hmm. The therapy I'm actually referring to now is called acceptance and commitment therapy. So yeah.
Okay.
So it's around acceptance, mindfulness, and living your life in terms of the things that are important to you, more than just changing thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a new trend. So things are changing.
How do you think the technology will help psychology to improve people's life? Like you see all this, this headsets that you can put on your head, and you can see your brain waves, right? So you can actually see when you're anxious, like, oh, this is interesting. Do you think it can be a little bit more controllable afterwards, or and that's not just the headset. You have all these apps that help you to meditate or to do this ABC sheet, right? The cognitive therapy. Where do you see this trend going? Like where we are now, like what's possible now, and where do you see it going?
I think technology will change the field of psychology and mental health quite much. The things that are closest to us now is using more and more technology to spread knowledge about psychology, bringing psychology to the people, and also through like self-help. So learning the patients to treat themselves. We also have some things that you call, well, of course, virtual reality is quite like an exposure therapy. Are you afraid of spiders? Not always that easy to find a big spider in Norway. No. So if you're to expose yourself, then virtual reality is quite cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. And wearables.
In a room full of spiders.
Yeah, they're already doing that in Sweden, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, wearables where you can see anxiety going up, going down, could be handy in exposure therapy as well, where you can actually see biologically and technological that your anxiety is going down when you expose yourself to the things you fear.
Okay.
Yeah. And basically, I think technology will improve the access to mental health treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that actually you were involved, or you are involved in a self-help in a self-help project. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah. It's a little bit on pause now, but we're working a lot. I'm working with a couple of other psychologists as well, where we're making small programs and apps. It's a company called Upsych, where we're making small programs and apps for self-help so that people can treat themselves for various mental health problems. We started off with some phobias like blood and needle injection phobia, where it's like quite specific, but we're expanding to things like panic disorder, OCD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any data to see how that works?
Well,
like, do you get some feedback from people to see if it worked or?
We've tested the blood injection phobia app, and so far it's been extremely helpful. People have come back after, they had one session with one of the psychologists, and they got the app and they came back and they said, basically, I'm cured. I don't need you anymore. So we're ruining our own business because we don't get our patients back. Yeah. So it's quite effective this far. Yeah, we'll have to see how it's with the other apps as well. But the one thing we're running so far is really effective. Yeah.
It's quite good because I see you doing quite a genuine, not self-interest work.
Yeah, we're not making that much money on this. We're basically taking away our own customers. So,
yeah. So if everyone, that has a job out there, that are afraid, robots will take our jobs, or all the software will take our jobs, pretty much you're helping software, right, to take your job. But I think your mission is not that you don't want your job anymore, but you want to help as much people as possible.
Absolutely.
Which is quite impressive and is laudable.
I read about today that about 1/3 of the jobs in Norway will probably be replaced by robots or technology in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
But I think some professions will prevail, like, for example, psychologists, because of course self-help is not for all patients. It's for the patients that we deem appropriate for using self-help. Yeah. If you're too sick, then you'll see a psychologist, and you have the safety net in the psychologist instead. So we're primarily making this for people who can help themselves, or people who won't see a psychologist because they don't want to or don't have time or money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spreading the knowledge. Knowledge is power.
Yeah. That's so impressive. Can you describe the happiest day at work for you?
Happiest day at work for me.
I don't know when it was, or if it was, or yeah.
Oh, you're thinking about a specific day?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say that, I can think about a specific day where I had all my favorite tasks in psychology in one day, and they felt really good. I was first holding a presentation. So I like holding presentations, giving lectures, and it went really well. I got a lot of positive feedback, inspired some people, and then I had therapy for a couple of hours with patients, and I was in the flow zone, so things went well, and I had a couple of breakthroughs with my patients, and I remember that day because it was a really good day. That's a really good day for me, if I can do a lot of different things. Yeah, and then I went home and I worked on the Upsych programs and had fun for myself. Yeah. So that's when you have breakthroughs in therapy and you are able to do some other things as well, that's a pretty good day at work.
Yeah. I guess this is a question that everyone asks you. Like, aren't your patients somehow take from your happiness, or aren't you mentally tired? And I do remember that I asked you before, and I was quite surprised about your answer, so that's why.
I always get that answer, yeah. Everybody thinks that psychologists are meant to be burned out, or must be completely miserable because they only hear about other people's problems. There are two things that I think does the opposite. And the first thing is that it feels really good to help other people. So when you manage to help another person, you feel good about it. And that makes me happy about my work, even though there have been problems within the patient's life. Making it better, that feels good. So it makes me happier about my work. And the other thing is that you turn your attention outwards and you actually realize what other people are struggling with, and you start appreciating more your own life and your own experiences.
Yeah.
So yeah, that feels good as well. So I think I'm not becoming sad of being a psychologist. It's making me happy, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. Probably all the listeners know already that, like, if you feel yourself unhappy, then just go and make someone else happy or help them, and you would instantly see that you become genuinely more happy, seeing that you could help someone else being more happy.
Yeah. Well, one exception, and that's if you're really tired or depressed because you're giving too much. That can also happen. Yeah. Like some people are giving so much of themselves all the time, or being used by other people, and then it's not a good tip to ask other people to give more.
Yeah.
But generally, yeah, if you give more to other people, make other people happy, you'll feel happier yourself. Yeah. That's a great tip for mental health.
So I guess it's good also to hold the balance.
Absolutely, yeah.
Don't give and don't take too much.
Yeah, but give more than you take. That's
if you would be honest with yourself, what was a challenging day, or a day that you doubted, is it psychology that great? Or when you just, you had your doubts, like everyone had it, right? Which is...
Yeah. Well... I remember around the end of my studies, I doubted a lot if I wanted to work as a clinical psychologist. And that was a sum of different things. One of the things was that I met a fair amount of psychologists who had been working for a while. And I thought, well, maybe I was unlucky, but I thought a lot of them were really strange. They were like, I don't know how to say it in English, but they were so... typical psychologists in every kind of way, and they've taken the psychologist way of speaking and therapy into their normal life. So I thought I always felt like a patient when I was talking to them, and I was like, I don't want to become like that. I was afraid of becoming like that. And another thing was also that I'm quite extroverted. So I'm outgoing, so I tend to want to be active, meet other people, be out, maybe go on a stage, hold a lecture, write.
Playing a band.
Yeah, playing a band. And that's quite hard when you're a psychologist only working in an office with one other person all the time. Yeah. But I managed to find like a balance now where I do about 50-50. Yeah.
So how did you get through that period? Like you're quite young, right? You just go and meet some people that are already psychologists, and I'm like, these dudes are quite strange. I'm like, like how did you break through? Like, how did you no, I'm not being like this. It's me who will define, what's a good psychologist and how it should be.
I started working with organizational psychology. Yeah. Then you're really outgoing. Then you're in organizations. You're working with teams, leaders, and different consultants all the time. So that immediately satisfied that need. And after a while, I always came back to thinking that mental health was really exciting. So I started up my private practice together with some other psychologists. And I just started giving therapy, and I thought it was really fun. And I think I also learned through when I was working with organizational psychology. Then I was a consultant, and I learned to trust my own opinions and evaluations of things. So I brought that into the therapy room, and thereby learning that my own way of being a psychologist is a good way.
Yeah. We need to find our way, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
What were the job prospects after you finished? So if you take the career path that you took, what type of jobs can you have after you finish?
Well, you will get a job as a psychologist. It's quite a lot of jobs, but your first job will most probably not be your dream job. You'll have to work yourself a little bit up from the bottom, because there are a lot of experienced psychologists out there who get the good jobs. So you'll have to start, a typical way is starting either at the PPT system in Norway. That's in connection with schools, where you do evaluations of cognitive skills at pupils and evaluating educational systems. That's quite a typical way to start. And then you go up, and then you suddenly get a job in, for example, an office where you work with more patients, but primarily you're an evaluator in the beginning. Some other people start in like trainee positions, where you get to be a young psychologist, where you get all the hard tasks. Yeah. So you won't find your dream job right away, but you will get a job, and you'll probably have to switch a little between jobs your first couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite usual.
Yeah.
For jobs, like you don't.
In other professions as well, like in doctors, it's extreme. It's exactly the same way. You have to jump from internships to internships all the time, the first couple of years, and you have to move for your job as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might have to do that as a psychologist as well. Move for a couple of years.
Yeah. How is it with work and life balance? And I guess here the question will be different from country to country. But at least here in Norway, what's the work and life balance ratio, or how do you see it?
For most psychologists in Norway, it's a typical 8-to-4 job. Yeah. So you get to work early in the morning, and you go home, and you're off work.
Yeah.
If you're working into organizational psychology, it might be, because then you're in like companies, and then it's a lot more work. I had some days where I was working like from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening, but not many days. Usually it's like an 8-to-4 job, and you have to make sure yourself that you don't take your job with you home.
Yeah.
Especially when you're working with mental health with patients. You have to make...
How do you do that?
Well, I just do it automatically. I guess when I'm at work, when I'm in therapy, I'm at work. I'm not there as a friend trying to give care or a lot of empathy, just empathy in general. I'm there trying to solve some problems and trying to help the patient. And then I switch into job mode. And when I go home, I switch off job mode. I can't explain it differently than that. Well, I use a lot of mindfulness and meditation as well. That not in that particular case, but I guess it always helps to reset your mind.
Like, did you have any situation where when you were at home and you were thinking about a patient, and like, hey, this is not the job mode? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I remember it was my first patient, and during my studies when I had patients like when I was really inexperienced, then I tended to think about my patients at home, like thinking about this session next day, like what am I going to do, what are we going to do, and how are we going to solve this. And also my first patient in my private practice, where I was fearing a little bit of like maybe he was not doing so well and something could happen at home, like in terms of suicide.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking a lot about that. I had to take a lot of walks outside and like reset my mind, and managed to go through it, and then haven't been a problem since.
Yeah.
It went well with him, though, by the way. It wasn't any problem. It was just me thinking about it.
It's, I think it's a training, right? To do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think that psychology made you happier? Like, do you think that just to understand some behaviors and to understand the mind a little bit better, you tend to appreciate the small things in life, and not to be so anxious, do you think overall, just because you picked psychology, you're just a more fulfilled person?
That's a deep question. I'm thinking, well, it's a double-edged sword, I think. I think I'm feeling more complete as a person because I can, put names on what I experience, and I tend to be able to create a distance between myself and my thoughts. So I tend to be a lot in observer mode within myself, and that helps from not experiencing a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
You're a meditator, you know that.
Yeah.
It's good to have a distance between yourself and your thoughts. Don't believe your thoughts, children.
No.
They're lying. It's not the truth. But it's also it's a genuine finding that people with high education, people who are intelligent, can be easily depressed.
Yeah.
I've not experienced that in any big way, but when you think a lot about things, you can easily fall into a bad path and think yourself in a negative way. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I think that I think some of the most happy people, the happiest people I meet are people who use their body and work with simple jobs.
Yeah.
They're the most happy people I meet, not psychologists. I know a lot of depressed and anxious psychologists.
But also, I think there are a lot of meditators that are really happy, but they work with their mind, right? Like they all the time, they try to understand, and they're quite happy.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, meditation is good.
What would be your advices for someone choosing this career path?
It would be to read more about things that you find interesting in psychology. Of course, you have to read the curriculum and do your exams and everything, but psychology and being a psychologist is more about finding your own style and the things you find important. So if you find some way of practicing psychology more interesting than the other, read about that and try it, and don't be afraid. And trust yourself when you're practicing, for example, therapy, because you can't be a therapist like the other therapists you've seen. You have to be your own. You have to make use of your own personality traits and your own being.
Yeah.
And be patient because it's a long study. Have fun while you're being a student. Go out. Drink, party. It's 6 years in Norway. I did it in 7 years, both to get into the study in the first place and because I had some other subjects in organizational psychology as well. So, yeah.
If we can talk a little bit about your artistic side.
Yeah.
Tell me the story. Like, how did you get into a band? And now you're getting to... You just got a call to play for the...
Yeah, that was a quite big gig. Yeah, because I play in a band. I played the drums. I've been playing the drums since I was 6 years old. So a lot longer than I've been a psychologist. I also play the guitar and I sing.
I think actually I interviewed for the wrong position. I should have interviewed you for the...
The drummer is. I play in the party. I play in a party and cover band who only play cover songs, groovy cover songs for parties. So we typically go on around midnight and replace the DJ and bring and create make music for people to dance. So
what's the story? What's the story behind it?
I used to play. I've been playing in a lot of school bands and bands up during the years, and in my study time I started playing in a small party band called Awesome Sauce in Bergen.
Awesome Sauce.
And there was some friends of mine who played in a different party band called Hot Sound with a Z. Okay. And when we moved, we were studying in Bergen. When we moved to Oslo in Norway, then we decided to start up again. We merged these two bands into one band called Awesome Sauce. So my band name won. Yeah. And so we're just a bunch of friends having fun, playing at parties. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And now we suddenly got quite big. We get a lot of gigs. We're going to play at the World Championship of, what do you call it in English? Ski shooting? Where you ski and you shoot at the same time.
I think it's
biathlon. No, Isn't it?
Yeah, you might be right.
I'm not sure.
I know.
Well, where you ski and you shoot at the same time. We're going to play in the World Championship. That's fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's, I'm really happy for you, you know,
Thanks.
to see that it's going so good, you know, on this parallels.
Yeah, it's fun. I also write a lot. That's an artistic side as well, I guess. It's fun writing. So
What type of writing?
I write articles for newspapers and media. Yeah,
Yeah. That's quite,
disseminating knowledge. That's bringing psychology to the people. That's a lot what self-help is about as well. Self-help and technology is a great way of spreading the knowledge.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
probably improving mental health as well.
Yeah, actually, I think it's quite very cool what you're doing. Because like maybe I don't have in my network so many psychologists, but I have a few. But I just see I'm seeing you being active all the time, you know, and bringing awareness about some subjects.
Yeah. I can't sit still. I guess that's why. That's my hyperactive side.
Okay.
If I would ever have a mental disorder, it would be mania, hypermania. I would be manic. Do so many things.
Just to finish up, just a couple of questions more. Some resources, if you have some, if you can recommend to the young or old listeners some books, podcasts, movies, something that they can check.
There aren't that many good movies that really portrays how it is to be a psychologist, to be honest. There's a quite cool TV series called In Treatment, but it's a quite psychodynamic therapy, not like cognitive behavioral therapy, like a modern type. Mm-hmm. If you want resources about how becoming a psychologist or studying or what a psychologist do for real, I would recommend going to the National Psychological Association of your country. It's probably called something like National Psychology Association. Yeah. They can give you the resources for sure on how to become a psychologist, or ask universities. It's usually universities or colleges that educate psychologists. And read about it. A good place to start is actually just read about it on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
If you want to buy some books about it as well, if you go into like academical bookstores, you will get a lot of simple first year books about psychology to get you into like, what is this? What is it about? What is psychologist?
How do you see the future for this type of job? How do you see, do you think the study type, like the studying structure, will change a lot in the next 5 to 10 years, or it will be more or less the same? It will just be a lot of technology that helps, but more or less it will be the same, no breakthrough.
I think there will be more and more technology in both the studies and the profession in general. I also think that the studies will be more and more practical exercise, like exercising therapy in your study as well. Less and less theory and more practical work. I think that's the first changes.
Yeah. Do you have a Twitter or a blog where people can reach you?
Yeah. The Twitter account is AI Sinding. You can just post it afterwards.
Yeah. I can write it in.
And I have a webpage, psycologsinding.no. So yeah, feel free to check it out.
Yeah, you're quite active on your blog.
Yeah.
So if the listeners are interested to know more about this career path or about you, would you agree to do a webinar?
Yeah, sure. That'll be fun.
Yeah, actually, that'll be fun. Did you hear, guys? If you want to hear about what type of drums he's playing, how hard it was to start this career path, or how did he manage to get the first job, subscribe to the podcast, check the webpage, and subscribe to the webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And for those of you listening that want to find out if being a psychologist affects your personal life, and if you're meant to get burned out from listening to other people's problems, or how Aksel landed his first job, or whatever question you might have regarding psychology, please visit 99careeroptions.com/6 and sign up for the webinar. Before you leave, it will mean the world for me if you can leave a review and share my work with people that would find it useful. Maybe it is a brother, a sister, a friend or a niece, someone choosing a career path. Thank you so much for listening, guys. You are awesome. Don't forget that you can be whatever you want to be as long as you know your options. You are the reason and hopefully the support for these interviews, so please send me feedback and advice if you want me to change something, add some questions in my interviews, or interview someone with a particular job that you are interested in. See you later.